video. And as always with the live chat, I would ask you to make any comments you want, as long as they're suitable. So welcome to the inside of my motorhome. And in the last hour, that's to say, I'm doing this at 2010 in Poland, and at roughly 1900 hours in 2 missiles appear to have landed in Poland, 2 cruise missiles. It appears, because at the moment, as the things stand, we don't exactly know. This location is called Przewodów. Przewodów is to the southeast of Zamość. It's approximately 3-4 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, and it's very close to Bełżec. If you've seen my videos before, you know I'm interested. I'm a Holocaust interested in the Holocaust. So and I have published quite a lot of material from this area. So this is actually a place I know. What appears to have happened is that the missiles struck, or missiles. Hello, Annie. Struck a barn which was used for drying wheat, and 2 people were killed. Now, the full circumstances are not known at the time I'm speaking now. I know that the police are there, the public prosecutors there, but also the military are there. Now, the local mayor has made a comment on the press, which I can even read to you now. Thanks for saying to stay safe, but I'm a long from it presently, although I'll be in Ukraine in 2 days' time. So I've got here the comment from the mayor somewhere. I'm looking for the comment from the mayor. Yes, I've got it here. And so so the place has been completely the police have etc. have secured the area, and they're trying to actually say what exactly what's happened. Now, the mayor's called Grzegorz Drewnik. He lives 6 kilometers away, and he said he actually heard 2 explosions from being at when he was at home. And now, obviously, this is very close to the border, so there is a certain amount of I don't know if risk is the right word, because clearly this is now an attack on NATO territory, and Article 5 of NATO, so it says that it's attack on absolutely everyone. This doesn't, of course, lead to, it depends on what the consequences will be for the aggressor. Now, I have seen myself in my own experience is that there was a cruise missile that I don't know what the word is, landed, blew up, hit. It was a few kilometers from where I was, and when it comes down, make the dull thud. It ended up in the field, and so I don't think it even disturbed what the farmers were actually doing there. But they're not as accurate, certainly not the Russian ones, as some may seem. Now, the thing is, why do they cruise missiles are supposed to be very accurate? Now, the danger, from between the difference between cruise missiles and artillery is that artillery, when they fire it, it can just land just about anywhere. Cruise missiles are supposed to be programmed to actually go to a certain position and actually land there. The things with cruise missiles, they're very expensive. They cost between 1.5 and 10 million euros a shot. And when shots are made, there may be as many as 20 launched at one time. So that's 200 million euros a shot. And just think how many hospitals could be built for that type of money. Of course, if you're not interested in hospitals, but rather than stealing from other people, then you might want to spend the money instead on cruise missiles. Anyway, so I'll just actually go back to 1 or 2 of the comments. So greetings to Atlanta. And well, somebody says here it could be a false flag. I don't think it's a false flag when people actually end up getting killed. It could be a mistake. I accept that. I very much doubt it's a false flag, though. No-fly zone implemented over select oblasts in Ukraine. Could definitely see Polish fighter jets in Ukrainian airspace, says Sammy. Yes, that would be one way of actually doing this, because now it is clear with an attack of this nature that some type of defense is required. Now, Ukraine's been quite successful in shooting things down. Now, when I mentioned the where I was, where the 2 cruise missiles landed, now, I mean, I know that there was 4 of them fired, and 2 were shot down en route, and you could sort of, at least I think I could see when one of them was actually hit. obviously in the area of Rzeszów, for example, which is further south from where this attack took place, where the airport is, then this is now it's completely covered with these Patriot systems, and so American bases, for example, and where the the logistics hubs in Poland and the airports here are well protected. But unfortunately, farmers out in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, they're not protected, and so this is clearly what's happening. Another thing is, if something happens within a couple of kilometers of the border, it's very difficult to actually even shoot it down, because clearly the air defenses, which are in Poland itself, can't shoot down missiles over Ukrainian space unless some kind of agreement, and maybe now some kind of agreement will be made to allow that to actually happen. The Ukrainians have been asking for some time, in fact from the very beginning. First of all, they wanted NATO to close the skies, and that now could be a that could be a serious proposition. And the second thing is that the Ukrainians have been now receiving more and more sophisticated units. I know that, for example, this German anti-aircraft unit, which has now gone to Kharkiv. Now, the Germans themselves only actually produced 3 of them. So, one of these specialized units can protect an entire city, but that still leaves the imperialists, the aggressors. I don't like to say Russians because it sounds as though I'm blaming everybody. I'm not blaming everybody. I'm just blaming the fascist regime in Russia, the Putinists, for what's actually happened. So anyway, so no-fly zone. That would be a good thing. Now, yeah, the Polish government has actually started meeting on this. I picked this up now from obviously I speak Polish, so for those who don't know, I was picking this up from what the Poles have actually said. Evening, Colin, and hello. And so Joe writes, he's not surprised it's happened. NATO must vastly increase anti-missile systems in Ukraine immediately. I utterly agree with that one. And right, so I would like to actually tell you more, but I can't tell you more because I haven't got the information. There was something, this was first reported by Radio Z, which is one of the national radio stations here, but I've told you everything that they said, so I have nothing more to add actually to this piece of news. Now, one thing I do need to point out, though, it was the second Sunday in March. In the early hours of the morning, there was an attack on a place called Yavoriv. And Yavoriv is about 35-40 kilometers from the border. This was a mass attack which ended up in killing, I think, the victims were about 160 people. Now, Yavoriv, there is a military training ground which is very large. Yavoriv is quite a relatively smallish place of, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 people, I would say there, but there is this military base, and this became quite well known because there were units of the Foreign Legion people wanting to go with the Foreign Legion, and it seems that these idiots who'd actually gone there, putting stuff online, telling people where they were and all the rest of it, and then the enemy started firing missiles at it. And so that was the closest that missiles have actually fallen. Now today earlier today there was an attack on Łódź, which is approximately 65 kilometers from the Polish border. Another thing I need to point out as well is that there's an airport in Belarus, which is at Brest-Litovsk, which is 6 kilometers from the Polish border, and that is being used by the imperialists for firing missiles at Ukraine. For example, they've attacked Lviv from there. So I'll just go hello to the United Kingdom. Let Article 5 begin. Yes, and do I think Poland has response plan set in place for this sort of thing beforehand? Asks William. Yes, I think that this has been very carefully thought out. I'm sure they had a plan for this within, certainly after the attack on Yavoriv, which was in March. That's what, 7, 8 months ago now. And so, therefore, I strongly believe that there will be a suitable response given to this. That I'm absolutely certain. James says that World War III is broken out. Well, it depends how we're going to. I don't think this will involve an exchange of fire directly. There is World War III. I mean, but when you talk about World War II, and there is all of this, I've got this entire channel which is largely related to World War II. And what was the first battle of World War II? Okay, it was the invasion of Poland, but it took 2 days before France and United Kingdom came in. Maybe it wasn't even the attack on Poland. Maybe it was the attack on Czechoslovakia or on Austria or Lithuania. It depends how you actually classify the beginning of World War II. So we could say we could say that World War III was in fact the 24th of February 2022, or maybe going back to February of 2014 when the Putinist aggression against Ukraine actually started. And but Andreas says, the Article 5 needs to happen or NATO has no purpose. And I absolutely agree with this one. It has to, if Article 5 is not implemented in this way, NATO has no meaning. So there has to be some kind of response to this. And the thing is this, one would have thought that the imperialists would have been utterly careful to ensure that this type of thing didn't happen, but it has happened. And so what is the response? Maybe they have a hotline which is still working to say, no, sorry, it was an accident. These things do happen. They even happen in war. For example, in 1943, there was a fire on board a ship which had poison gas on it. And then it was even the Allies told the Germans, I can't remember how now, but they were informed that what had happened, and it was not a use of gas, and they were aware that it didn't come from them. So things have happened in the past where these hotlines were used. The hotline was used a number of times during the Cold War, and indeed there were communications even during the Cuban crisis. So I'm sure something has happened. So here somebody sent S-300 wreckage is a Ukrainian rocket. Lol. Well, I don't know. I would ask, how does this person know that S-300 is a Ukrainian rocket, and how does he know that it was actually fired from there? The answer to that is, well, he's probably just a Kremlin troll who's just making it up. Having said that, I have seen so many of these brain-dead Kremlin trolls who are usually anti-Semites, racists, who are claiming that Ukraine's done all the damage, it's Ukraine that's blown itself up and all the rest of it. This is just these moronic conspiracy theories. I have actually been on the place. I've spoken to people who had their houses blown up in front of them, or their families buried under piles of rubble, and the aggressors wouldn't allow them to dig them out. So these trolls are paid a lot of money, of course, by the Kremlin to make up comments like that. But anyway, NATO troops in Ukraine, is that an answer? Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, Mocky asks, does Article 5 require intention to be shown? That's a really good question. And you know what? I'd have to read that again. So if anybody in the meantime, whilst I'm rambling, can pull up the Article 5 and quote it exactly. Because if something happens by accident, accidents do happen. There could be a training exercise and the missile goes off course or something like that, or all sorts of things can happen by accident. There was the case in, I think it was 1983, when it was it seemed to some missile operators, in Russia, in Soviet Union, that there was an American attack or something on them, and it turned up to be, I can't remember, a flock of birds or something, but the two people kept their heads, and they didn't launch the attack as a retaliatory attack. This is the problem. I mean, things go wrong all the time. My gimbal went wrong just before I started doing this. So I mean, things, serious nature of computers going wrong happens all the time. So yeah, that maybe. That's a very good question. Dave asks, when did it happen? Happened in roughly 1900 hours. So we're here. It's 2026 at the moment here in Poland, and so it's about 90 minutes ago now. Put it that way. Well, look, so what response do I think? I don't know. Economic. I would hope that they've done everything economic that they can do. And I'd also hope they've done everything political that they can do. The only thing left is military. And this has to mean, I would have thought, supplying now aircraft, which hasn't been done to Ukraine. So we need sort of interceptor aircraft to shoot the, I don't know, I'm not just one idea. I don't know. I mean, hard for me to say, but I'm sure there is a plan on what to do next. Anyway, so you all want World War III, says Dalton. So what would anybody suggest? I don't want World War III. We're trying to avoid World War III. That's the whole point of showing. The reason why World War II happened was because of appeasement, because people gave Hitler everything he wanted, because the theory was, if you give a Nazi dictator everything he wants, then he won't start a war. And look what happened as a result. 50 million people died. And so we have been giving a Nazi dictator in Moscow everything he wanted. And what has been the result? There's a war in Ukraine. It doesn't work. Appeasement doesn't work. What works is force. And that is the mentality of the fascist. One must understand the mentality of the opponent. Being nice to people works when you've got a dispute with your neighbor, yes, but not in a case like this. And the thing is this, is if more determination had been shown by the Ukrainian government in 2014, when there was the aggression in Crimea, we wouldn't have this problem now. So that's it. Anyway, so Collins, has it happened on purpose? No, I don't think it's happened on purpose. I think this is an accident. I've absolutely no doubt whatsoever. The thing is, they shouldn't have been aiming missiles this close to the border. That is it. I mean, they could have aimed it at Lviv, for example, which is about 75 kilometers from the border, something like that. And Lviv is one of the largest towns in Ukraine. I mean, it looks like a capital city, in fact, Lviv. Anyway, what Poland can do is to get the West to give even more military aid to Ukraine, which has been small so far. Yeah, I think there are some countries that could give more. In fact, I think without the United States' help, I dread to think of what position Ukraine would be in now. And number two, assistance has come from the United Kingdom, and number three is Poland. And number four is actually Germany, although it might not actually seem that way. I actually saw German equipment in May in Ukraine, so there was something there when people were saying that they hadn't actually sent anything. Right, and yeah, so Andre writes, so I'm hearing that there's controversy as to the origins of this rocket. Well, if somebody says it was planted, and I'm sure there will be these people who say these things, were planted and killed two people. I mean, there's a big crater. Sorry, I can give you the address of the photo. You can see the photograph. I wish I could have. It is if you go to Radio Z That's written ZET.pl, and you can actually see a picture there, and the picture comes from Remiza, Remiza, I think it is, .pl. Yes, it is that. Sorry, Remiza.pl. They are the first ones there, and they're the ones who got the photograph of it. Yeah, Colin writes, the incident at Barry was a mustard gas accident. Yeah, I was trying to think. I wasn't prepared there, Colin. Yeah. And yeah. So check the photos. Flocks of birds don't leave craters. That's yeah. Well, Lance says he's from the UK and he would fight for Poland. Well, Lance, if you really are that keen on doing some fighting, why don't you come over here to Poland, and then you can arrange. I can actually help you with get into Ukraine. In fact, you could start off by helping us out with some humanitarian assistance, because we need drivers here. So that'd be good. Anyway, good. So Thomas has written the following. Well done, Thomas. Article 5. The parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently. Right, I'm presuming that Thomas did a cut and paste one job on that. So we might be able to say that this is not an armed attack. Yeah, so now that is open to interpretation. It was an attack with a weapon. I suppose we can say it's an armed attack. We might be able to say it wasn't an attack because it wasn't deliberate. So anyway, I'm just putting my legal mind there into. But anyway, Annie says, I hope they don't claim the bombing as an accident. Well, yeah, yeah, quite. So anyway, right. Okay. So Chester, right? I doubt Article 5 and Russia will have to pay damages. Yeah, well, yeah, maybe it can pay damages, but how can, the cost of those two missiles, if they were, that's anywhere between 3 and 20 million euros. But what they're going to do, who they're going to pay it to? The family of the people who are dead? Well, what about bringing the people back to life? That, unfortunately, can't be done. And anyway, right, so, right, okay, Thomas writes, terminated when the Security Council has taken the measures necessary to restore and maintain international peace and security. Okay, right. RK writes, the problem is that Europe is disarmed and Article 5 takes a few weeks to take effect, because before everyone can agree how and what to do in the event of war, the country that is attacked. Yeah, the problem is, yeah, if you're just to sort of get around the table and sort of talk about it and think about it, it's a bit pointless. However, I do think that they will have considered this one beforehand, I think. I mean, it's so anyway, so Daniel writes 200 Leopard 2s, 200 Abrams IIFVs, and 280 ACMS to Ukraine. Job done in World War III. Okay, right. Now, the Leopard 2 is a German tank, which I think is already in Ukraine. Now, the Abrams is, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, but it isn't actually there. The thing with the Abrams, I believe there were problems actually in delivery for something like that. Now, this would, I mean, with this type of delivery of this type of weaponry, I'll be surprised if the Ukrainians actually had the staff to actually use this much equipment. But that type of delivery would completely change the war. Yeah, so Andre writes, it was Danzig or Warsaw. After they stopped appeasement, they got war. Yeah, okay. I don't think it was just about Gdansk, but yeah, sure, okay. Okay, oh, and here's a quote for, I can't remember who made this quote. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Yeah, okay. Mary says, if it is indeed a Putinist attack, do you believe it's for Lebensraum? That's living space. Sorry for my spelling. Well, the whole thing about this is I think it's for territorial aggrandizement. I mean, this is an intent to steal the resources of Ukraine. As far as Ukrainians are concerned, as there are people within the Russian leadership who've actually called for the genocide of Ukrainians, as to a certain extent was attempted by the same Kremlin in the 1930s. Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit now, but they did kill. I mean, they deliberately caused famine, caused at least 3.9 million Ukrainians to be killed, and that is the same government as there is now. At least it's the hereditary government. It wasn't the same person. That was Stalin. Now we've got Putin, but it's the same Kremlin ideology that we have now. Right. Okay. Good. The sorry. So I'm just going through the. So what do I think the response will be? I don't know actually. So Russia has enough Lebens around. Russia has enough living space. Yeah. The thing with Russia is that it's got these huge expanses of land when it claims it's surrounded, and it has. I think that I had a very interesting argument today. Is that the real enemy, a potential enemy for Russia, who's like to take land from Russia, and that's China. I mean, none of its Western neighbors are likely to want to actually take land from it. Georgia might want to recapture a bit which is lost, and Ukraine to recapture a bit which is lost. But other countries from which Russia or the Soviet Union took territory, such as Estonia or Finland, for example, there's no demands there to get this back. Joe says what we're witnessing is the death of the last generation of Stalinism and communism in Russia, represented by Putin striking out in rage and desperation against the world. Yeah, I've tried to actually put this in my mind that this is in fact this war is just one of many wars in the breakup of the Soviet Union. In fact, that's something I've been thinking about. So you had these big war against Armenia and Azerbaijan, for example, or you had the Chechen wars. And this thing which surprised me always was that Russia it sort of really fought for these Chechen areas where there was a population which was Russian was a minority language, but then it happily agreed to the breakup. So countries like Belarus becoming independent. Okay, Ukraine maybe a bit more I could understand, but Belarus becoming independent, never been independent before in its history, and Belarus is anyway. Not wanting to insult anybody from Belarus and start an argument there, so that might be coming off the point. Anyway, yeah, Germany needs to step up more, says Chester. Yeah, I agree with that. Germany could give more, but there was a program on the television. I was there in June, and I listened to a program. They said, look, yeah, but Germany's got nothing to give. The German army isn't all that developed. Having said that, also was there in September, and on my motorhome channel, I've got a film of something called the Dingo, which is an armored fighting vehicle, and it is then the time in September when I was there, the German government said they were going to give a number of these Dingos to Ukraine, and anyway, yeah, Russia went way too far. One Ukraine AA missile could have changed Russia missile trajectory. That's why it hit Poland. I don't think that's possible. Well, maybe it is possible. I don't know. Oh, okay, right, okay. So we've got something to say here. Ukraine shot down the missiles, and it was the debris that hit Poland. Russia not to blame. Well, I can't agree with that from what we know so far, because we know there were explosions. I read out what the mayor said, and that does not agree with the what the eyewitnesses say. I'm not saying this absolutely untrue, but I highly doubt that's the case. If it wasn't, is it an attack if there was no targeting? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, and Penguin, who's from Poland, says we have a meeting between Prime Minister and all defence delegates. Yes, there is. And Apke writes, Adolf Hitler is going to bring those two folks back to life as damages. Yes, no doubt. But to be fair, I think it won't really happen. Our troops put onto the border, I guess. Yeah, well, our troops already are on the border. So, there's plenty of Americans on the border at the moment anyway. There's an American base there. Well, from there, it's about 70 kilometers or so further south from so what would have happened if that missile killed a person from the British royal family and one from Biden's family? Yeah, probably. Um, uh, so, Russia not at fault, of course. Yes, says Annie. So, anyways, please drive safely. I always drive safely. I'm noted for driving safely. I drive so slowly that it's quicker to walk. And right, so I'm just going through your comments. I bet there'll be more actually on the internet at the moment, but I'm wanting to actually report like that. Oh, here's got. Isn't this just like the Cuban Missile Crisis? Though Zelensky has been asking for nukes for ages, apparently. That is utter nonsense. The Ukrainian government gave up its nuclear weapons voluntarily in 1994 in exchange for its territorial integrity. So if Zelensky had asked for, he said he lost his territorial to one of the countries there. I did a video on this. Even in the video, you can see the wording of the Budapest Memorandum. And the person who signed the Budapest Memorandum was the same Sergei Lavrov, who is currently the foreign minister. He signed it. He can't claim he didn't sign it. He didn't know what he was signing or something like that. He signed it. And so say that Ukraine's asking for nukes. Ukraine had them. This is just repeating Kremlin propaganda. Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons in exchange for territorial recognition and its integrity. That has been taken away by one of those countries. And so the other two signatories are morally bound to defend Ukraine because of that. Anyway, okay. Well, so yeah, so somebody might say it wasn't debris. Look at the pictures. Massive missile crater. Could be an AA missile. Made a Russian missile to change trajectory again. No, I don't believe. This is a cruise missile. You can tell from the depth of the depth of the hole, the hole there. So Polish jets are already in the sky. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that this thing about changed trajectory by Ukrainian missiles. These things will be put out by the paid Kremlin trolls. I've got no doubt about that. These arguments. Anyway, so the semi-trailer was completely trashed. Also, Pshevodov sits not that close. It's 7 kilometers from the border. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And the settlement of Pshevodov, I'm presuming, I don't exactly know where the farm was that was hit. Andreas says one, it can understand, but two at the same time. Yeah, I can't explain that. It's I don't suppose it was done deliberately. I suppose that somebody was sitting in front of his computer and he put the wrong coordinates in, or something along those, or the computer didn't understand, or whatever. He missed something up. I can't explain it. But this idea that the trajectory of two missiles could have been changed by Ukrainian anti-aircraft. Don't know. Anyway, Woodrow Wilson said it best. The restoration of Poland in 1918 is for putting a wall of fanatical Catholics between us and the East. Wonder why Polish history books leave that one out. Yeah, well, that's not really relevant for them. We're saying here. Yeah, the point is 8 kilometers in Polish territory. That's too far for comfort. Why don't you? Anybody knows, have a look on Google Maps. You can see. Although you gotta really push it in, because this is a really small settlement. There's only about 50 people there or something like that. Anyway, so John writes from Tacoma, Washington, where the bridge was that fell into the water around in the 1940s. Anyway, so this day somebody on the other side of the world. Nobody seems to think it's a big deal. I'm sure that's how World War II started. No, World War II started with the invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany. So, anyway, yeah, so good point here. Is Poland mobilized and the Poles, UK, and answer the call? It would be an economic disaster for the UK. Yeah, well, that's it could have been human error, but yeah, and they're noted for using inaccurate missiles. Yeah, sure. But this is the thing: is that this is really why they should be taking the utmost care. And I can say in my case, I witnessed. Well, not witnessed. I didn't see it come down, but I heard the it wasn't a bang, it was like a splat. And anyway, so Russia launched them, therefore there's the fault. Stop trying to be clever. Yeah, they were launched by Russia. They weren't launched for anyway. Colin's watching the reporting on Polish TV. How probable it was just the usual military ineptness? I think that's highly likely, to be quite honest. And Cook says we have Moab. Yeah, I forgot what Moab. What's it stand for? Write down. I've forgotten what Moab stands for. It's gone. Anyway. Anyway. Oh, very good. John lives in the same place as I do. And caution: miscalculation can lead to catastrophic consequences. Okay, right. So Miss Anonymous writes, there's a video on Twitter about them saying they were going to hit Poland 9 hours ago. I don't know the video. I don't know the video. I haven't seen it. Haven't heard of it. But I'd be rather suspect of that one being genuine. Yeah. So who cares if it's in an epi even by World War II standards, that's inaccurate. Yeah, no, I would say actually by World War II standards, there are a couple of places which got flattened in Switzerland. One of them being Schaffhausen, which came on the receiving end of an American bombing attack on Stuttgart. And if you look on the map, Schaffhausen and Stuttgart is about 150 kilometers away from each other. But yeah. So Miss Anonymous said their state TV said they were going to do it. Well, yeah, that could be the case. I mean, you see all these threats. If you watch Rossiya Zim, the main news channel in Russia, you get one after another, these idiots, these hardcore neo-Nazi fascist imperialists. They want to attack, they want to wipe out the United Kingdom. Usually it's really the hate's directed at the UK. I think this is done deliberately because they start doing it against the United States, they feel that the US might react. But if they do it against the UK as a proxy for the US, then they're not so bothered. But yeah, you can see them actually threatening the UK is the font of all evil, according to them. Okay, missiles now being confirmed. So much for those who were saying earlier it wasn't. And it's Colin writes it's the law of averages. Yeah. So World War III broke out on the 24th of February 2022 when the Russians invaded Ukraine. Now the Russians have attacked Poland, who have been one of the staunchest allies of Ukraine. Yeah. So Miss Anonymous again says they're threatened to do it's not an accident. And so we know that Horsehead Lavrov is in Indonesia getting a suntan. I guess the alternative is being Iran, Northern Korea, and Myanmar. He made the right choice. Okay, hello, Marco. And miss going off target like this, and then maneuvers and exercises would end in mass death of everybody around. Yes, if this happened regularly, I mean, people do get killed on maneuvers. I mean, the accidents do happen, and I'm sure most people who have been in the army can actually tell stories of maybe they didn't witness it themselves, but they know of other people who have actually been. I mean, when I was in the army, there was an accident with a grenade. I didn't see it myself, but somebody was killed in a parachuting accident. I think what else happened? There was a case of friendly fire. Things that do happen. Um. Anyway, John says there's a dual bridges there. Uh, RT editor, writes Daniel. I said now Poland has their own Belgorod. Sorry, I was thinking the Belgorod. I was thinking of the submarine, the Belgorod. But no, I think Belgorod is located to the north of Kharkiv. I went to Belgorod, and on my other channel, you can see my video from Belgorod in 2005, and yeah, presumably they're saying in Russia Today, which is a propaganda which makes the stuff up. They're claiming that these attacks would have been, may have been, probably were attacks from Ukraine on oil storage facilities. And in Belgorod was a staging area for the attack on Ukraine. I mean, there's plenty of Russians who actually put stuff up on the internet showing the tanks in the streets even before it happened. From the 23rd of February, there was stuff, or even earlier, if I remember rightly, put up there by Russians, citizens, and themselves, who are actually giving warning, I suppose, of this attack. So we've got to bear in mind that there are patriots in Russia who are opposed to this fascist regime and this war. Um, uh, um, yeah, so Dom writes, the Pentagon's doing the usual, nothing. It's disgusting, says Miss. It's north of Lviv. Yeah, no, northwest of Lviv. Yeah. And John says it's shooting is very it's very valid thing. It's a very serious thing. Okay, so thanks very much for this. I just wanted to report this, and I had only a couple of things to report, but I've ended up to be on 40 minutes before more than I was intended to actually speak. In fact, I just finished my video on the bugging of Trent Park during the luxurious POW camp during the Second World War. So if anybody wants to have a look at that, I know that the motorhome blind behind me has got a bit of a problem. I want to actually change the blind, and I've just been doing my washing as well, so I'll have to putting everything away. In fact, I sat down here to be in front of the computer for my live premiere on the POW camp at Trent Park. Anyway, thanks, Colin. It was excellent. Well, there's going to be a longer one on Trent Park. I think it's on Saturday, if I remember rightly. I might be a Friday. So stay safe. Thank you, Hang Tho. Hi. And I am Poland now. I am in Poland right now, but I'm on the other end of I'm near Wrocław. And I will be there in the region where this happened. I think we're crossing the border at Rubieszów on, you know what, we might even go through it or nearby it in 2 days' time. I don't know. I'm not deciding the route. I'm just one of the group. I'm not in charge, so I don't know. Anyway. Okay. All right. So I'll drop by Hanover. Thanks. I'll take you up on that offer. Thank you. Anyway, I'll let you know when I know anything. Thanks very much for watching. All the best from me in Wrocław, Poland. Bye for now. Thank you. Hi. Thank you.